Hey, what's up guys, my name is Charlie. Today we're going to be doing some more requested reaction videos, and this video was requested by Billy Mount, and it's going to be Cinematic Excrement, Episode 80, RoboCop 3. Oh boy, RoboCop was a good movie, the first one and second one, but I believe RoboCop 3 was absolutely god-awful, but not as bad as those RoboCop TV series, I believe. I don't know if anyone remembers those, but there was like a RoboCop TV series. Those were absolutely dreadful. But yeah, this should be interesting. I want to see what RoboCop 3 will be like in someone else's opinion. So, let's go. Okay. Crude, vulgar. My best of... I love it when it's crude and vulgar. That's my favorite of all time. I love offensive videos, so this is a good sign.
Welcome to Cinematic Excrement, recommended by 7 out of 10 dentists. You ever notice how Hollywood has a tendency to water things down in an attempt to gain a wider audience?
Oh,
This is something I first talked about way back when I reviewed Conan the Destroyer,
Conan the
the craptacular
Destroyer.
sequel to Conan the Barbarian. While the first Conan movie easily earned its R rating due to its graphic depictions of violence and sex, the studio decided barring children under 17 from the theater was limiting the movie's earning potential. So Conan the Destroyer took a more family-friendly approach, toning down the violence and putting more focus on the comedy. Really, really bad comedy.
Yeah.
And while it originally received an R rating, it was recut to a PG, which, by the studio's logic, should have resulted in greater box office revenues.
So what's this
Well,
got to do with
surprise,
RoboCop?
it didn't happen.
Conan the Destroyer wasn't exactly a flop, but it did make significantly less money than its predecessor and was not well liked by critics or audiences. Turns out a bigger potential audience doesn't necessarily translate into an actual bigger audience. Who'da thunk it?
And Hollywood learned a valuable lesson that day.
Hollywood never learns its lesson.
And promptly forgot it the next day because, as
Yeah.
you may have noticed, they keep making the same mistakes.
Yeah, Hollywood
Time
never
and
learns.
time again, we get these watered-down sequels that disappoint the fans of the originals. We saw it with Caddyshack. We saw it with Terminator.
Caddyshack.
Twice. Even Die
Terminator,
Hard
oh
wasn't
God.
immune to this shit.
Die Hard.
I know they eventually fixed this when the unrated cut was released on DVD, but when they released Live Free or Die Hard in theaters, they edited John McClane's famous line, "Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker."
Wow.
Why on earth would you do that? You can't do Die Hard without Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker.
Yeah, you can't do that without
That'd be
that.
like making a Star Wars movie without I have a bad feeling about this. It's just not done.
Why do movie studios keep doing this shit? I know they want to maximize the earning potential of every movie they put out. They're running a business, and the point of every business is to make money. I get that.
Yeah.
But sometimes an R rating just makes sense. Take Deadpool, for example. This is a character who
Deadpool.
thrives on
Boy.
gratuitous violence and swearing. It's part of what makes him so entertaining. Can you imagine how much less fun a PG-13 Deadpool would have been? Well, technically they already made that movie, and it was horrible, so there, point proven.
I think they're
And you know
making
who else doesn't do well
sort
in
of
a
child-friendly
non-R-rated
Deadpool.
environment?
It's like a Christmas thing or something.
Here's a hint. It's in the title of the video. That's right. RoboCop.
Finally, we're getting
This
to
character
RoboCop.
was originally brought to the big screen back in 1987 by director Paul Verhoeven, who would later go on to make amazing movies like Total Recall,
Total
Starship
Recall,
Troopers,
Starship
and
Troopers, that's incredible.
Showgirls.
Oh,
Okay,
yes,
so he's
yeah.
hit and miss. But with RoboCop, he nailed it.
This movie stars Peter Weller as Alex Murphy, a Detroit police officer who is brutally murdered by a gang but resurrected
God,
as a
this is-
cyborg by a company called Omni Consumer Products.
Remember
turning him
this,
into the
so
titular
violent,
RoboCop.
but so
Part
good.
man, part machine, all cop. Together with his sidekick,
Would you
Officer
like to
Ian
know
Lewis,
more?
played by Nancy Allen, they
Sorry, I
fight to
couldn't
rid the streets
resist.
of Detroit from criminal scum. The movie is a brilliant satire of corporations and American culture, as well as a great story about just what it means to be human. It's also incredibly violent.
I'd buy that
This
for a
movie went
dollar.
so over the top with its violence and gore that it initially received an X rating from the MPAA.
Damn.
An X rating,
Yeah,
or
that's-
today it would be NC-17,
that's a death sentence.
not for any sexual content, but for violence. That's almost unheard of.
As an X rating would have ensured the movie's demise, since most movie theaters won't show X-rated movies,
Yeah, that's
they
a
did
death
trim it down
sentence.
to an R. But even the R-rated cut was still pretty brutal. But that didn't stop it from becoming a big hit with critics and audiences alike, so Orion Pictures immediately greenlit a sequel. And in 1990, we got RoboCop 2, which sees Murphy and Lewis
Yeah, that's
trying
good.
to stop
I
the spread
enjoyed
of a new
RoboCop
designer
too.
drug that
It was
has hit the
okay.
streets of
Not as good
Detroit,
as the first
and
one,
still
but
dealing
it's
with
a
the
respectable
increasingly
approach.
invasive presence of omni-consumer products. Weller and Allen returned to reprise their respective roles, but Verhoeven had no interest in doing a sequel, so Irvin Kershner sat in the director's chair. For the last time, it turns out, with a
Wow.
screenplay written by Waylon Green and Frank Miller. Yeah, that Frank Miller.
In my opinion, RoboCop 2 was okay.
Yeah, it was
But
okay.
it
It
was
was
nowhere near as good as the first one.
That's what I
The
said,
movie
yeah. It's
has some good
acceptable.
ideas,
It's
but many of them
it's
feel
an acceptable one.
unfinished. For example, early on, we find out Murphy has been driving by the home where his wife and son now live, as he clearly wants to reconnect with them, but doesn't quite know how. But he's
Wow.
convinced by his corporate overlords at OCP that this is a terrible idea, as he could never be a proper husband and father in his current condition. Reluctantly, he agrees, and when his wife shows up a moment later to confront him, he rejects her as he believes she and their son would be better off without him. So she runs away in tears, and...
Reminds me
that's
of
it.
the new
We never see
RoboCop
her
movie.
again. That entire subplot is just kind of dropped.
It's a shame, really. That story could have gone somewhere great.
Yeah.
Instead, it just went nowhere.
And I don't know about you, but I was not buying this 12-year-old kid as a murderous drug kingpin. That's just silly. And his tearful death scene near the end... I know the movie wants me to take this seriously, but
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just can't. The whole thing feels ridiculous.
Though admittedly, it wasn't quite as ridiculous as RoboCop himself promoting the movie by showing up on a WCW pay-per-view and helping Sting fight off the Four Horsemen. Yes, that actually happened.
Really?
WCW
That happened?
Capital Combat. Look it up.
I don't
Damn.
think it's a bad movie, and it's actually kind of hilarious in hindsight, as it features the city of Detroit declaring bankruptcy, which would actually happen 23 years later. But it was a step backward in the franchise. Apparently, audiences thought the same, as it didn't make as much money as its predecessor, and it had a much larger budget. Not a
Damn.
good combination.
Even
Yeah.
though RoboCop 2 underperformed, Orion Pictures decided it was worth giving it one more go.
Underperformed,
So
it's a
they
fucking
greenlit
robot.
a third film. Which was probably a mistake if you think about it. I mean, how often do movie trilogies end well?
Look at The Godfather. Damn near
Godfather.
everyone considers the first two films to be classics, but
Yeah,
they'd rather
absolute
pretend Part
great.
3 never happened. Look at Alien. The first one is a sci-fi horror masterpiece.
Alien,
The second
amazing.
One is an awesome
Second one
action
was
spectacle,
even better
and the
for me.
third
Second one
is
was the
kind
best
of a
for me.
mess.
The third
X-Men,
one was meh.
Spider-Man, The Matrix, Terminator, Shrek, X-Men. Again, why is the third movie so often a disappointment?
Yeah, it's
Sure,
normally
every
the
once in a
second
while
one
you
is
get a film like
awesome.
Return of the King that actually does it right, but trilogies like that tend to be few and far between.
And why should RoboCop 3 be any different? Especially since the studio decided to take things in a different direction. No more hard R rating this time. They wanted a RoboCop the whole family could enjoy.
You
That
can't
is what they
surprise me,
advertised
I've
on the
watched
back
the
of the
TV
box for the
series.
Game Boy adaptation of RoboCop 2.
Orion presents
RoboCop
the
TV
next
series,
RoboCop
Jesus.
adventure in 1993 for all age groups.
Which makes me wonder why they still had Frank Miller write the screenplay.
Again, that Frank
Sin
Miller.
City, yeah,
There
that's
are
a great
many
movie.
words that come to mind when I think of Frank Miller, and family-friendly
Bruce Willis
are
was
not
in that,
among
wasn't he?
them. Already,
Sin
this
City,
sounds like
Bruce
a bad
Willis was in
idea,
that.
but I assure you, it gets worse. The screenplay for RoboCop 3 was based on a screenplay Miller originally wrote for RoboCop 2 that the studio rejected.
Oh,
Now,
boy.
why on earth would you want to use a screenplay that you already rejected, and probably for good reason?
Yeah.
Well, believe it or not, I actually got in touch with a former executive at Orion Pictures and posed him that very question. This was his response.
Cocaine's a hell of a drug.
I think that tells us all we need to know.
Oh,
So
God.
let's take a look at what happens when you take something like this
Masterpiece of a
and
movie,
turn
the
it
first
into a
RoboCop.
family picture. This are gonna suck.
Yeah.
So despite damn near everything going wrong for omni-consumer products in the last two movies, they are somehow still around, but only just. They've been bought out by a Japanese company owned by Mako, and their American CEO has been replaced with Rip Torn.
Does anybody else think this sounds like the start of a really weird sitcom?
If you saw the first two movies, you'll recall OCP wants to take over the city of Detroit and tear down its less savory neighborhoods.
Which is kind of like the smellier parts of a dog turd.
and rebuild them as Delta City. Apparently, they're still going through with that plan, and step 1 involves sending a stereotypical British villain named McDaggett, played by John Castle, to round up the current residents and kick them the fuck out. For some reason, the residents aren't happy about this.
I know they're being forcefully evicted from their homes, but they're leaving Detroit. There's nowhere to go but up.
And since this is a RoboCop for all ages, that naturally means we have to have an annoying child character that the younger audience can relate to. And that brings us to this 7-year-old doing calculus on her laptop.
Something I'm sure many 7-year-olds can relate to.
Oh,
This
bullshit.
is Nico, a Japanese-American child prodigy played by the not-at-all Japanese actress Remy Ryan Hernandez. She and her parents are being forcefully evicted from their neighborhood in Cadillac Heights.
He's
when
always reminded me of
suddenly
Mel
they're
Gibson
separated.
from
For no
Lethal
good
Weapon,
goddamn
the sort
reason
of
at
hair.
all.
She got briefly knocked out of line, and one of the guards decided to hold her back while her parents were forced onto the bus and driven away.
Yeah, it's just,
Why?
well, yeah.
And I know that guard didn't force her onto a different bus because a minute later we see her wandering through this smoldering trash fire of a neighborhood.
Yeah, I mean,
Again,
what sort of
why
neighbor
do these
is
people
that?
not want to leave?
Mom! Dad?
You just saw your parents get loaded onto a bus and driven away. I don't think they're gonna hear you.
Yeah.
You know, for a super genius, you're not too bright.
The kid ends up falling in with a group of anti-OCP freedom fighters, because of course she does, and it's a good thing they found her because when they try to rob the Detroit
Hey,
police
she looks
armory,
familiar.
they run into an Ed 209 robot that Nico is conveniently able to hack.
She knows how to do that because...
Yeah,
Because.
she knows
Won't
calculus.
believe this. He'll be loyal as a puppy.
You're right, I won't believe it.
I am authorized to use physical force.
I can't say deadly force because the studio won't let me.
I've never
You have
understood
10 seconds to comply.
why movies and TV shows always
If that's
have to
okay with
have
you.
the kid knowing everything
4
or
seconds.
person knowing how to hack
You
stuff.
have 1 second
I
to
hate that.
comply.
Hey, you skipped 2, no fair.
I am now authorized to be loyal as a puppy.
I think I recognize that,
For the love of...
she was
The
in
Ed 209
Star Trek
actually
Deep Space
recognizes the
Nine.
command, loyal as a puppy.
Hey, she's a code
Seriously?
writer. Fuck it.
So
just
they grab
go
all
with
the
the
guns
flow.
they can carry, as well as
Yeah,
this
her.
expensive-looking thing, which we'll come back to later. Now, since they're robbing the police armory, you'd think the Detroit Police Department would be in a hurry to stop them. Unfortunately, they currently have their hands full with a gang that call themselves the Splatterpunks.
As this movie is PG-13, I don't think they're gonna live up to their name.
Yeah.
And once again, among Detroit's finest is Officer Ann Lewis, played once again by Nancy Allen, though she apparently couldn't be bothered to cut her hair this time.
That says a lot about how highly she thought of the script.
Yeah, she was there for the paycheck.
What do you need the shotgun for?
You're in Detroit. What do you not need the shotgun for?
Wow,
It seems these officers
roasted.
are in a world of trouble. Fortunately, someone is looking out for Officer Lewis, whose first name is spelled A-N-N here, but A-N-N-E in the credits. Which is it? Anyway, another officer drops in to provide assistance.
Police officer, no loitering.
That
Ladies
voice.
and gentlemen, I give you our titular hero, RoboCop. And if you've seen either of the first two movies, something probably seems a bit off here. I mean, besides the fact that he just shot a hole in the roof of his cruiser for no
Yeah, and he
reason.
has a
And that's
handgun.
because that's not Peter Weller. He was busy filming the movie Naked Lunch at the time, and I guess the studio didn't want to wait for him, so he was replaced by Robert Burke.
Yeah.
And I don't think Burke does a bad job, all things considered, but Weller really made the role his own, and anyone else just doesn't feel quite right.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it's not the
Robo
same.
saves his friend's ass, but he had to give up chasing the people who robbed the armory to do it. OCP is not happy about this, so they send their vice president in charge of douchebaggery, Mr. Fleck, played by
Douchebaggery.
Bradley Whitford, to the police station to complain very loudly to Robo's handler, Dr. Lazarus, played by Jill Hennessy.
Dr. Lazarus.
What's it with people
Bit on
wearing
the nose.
glasses
The
that they're
good doctor
automatically
tries to
smart?
explain
I
to
can't,
Mr.
I
Fleck
can't
that
stand movies like
RoboCop
that.
is
Wear
still
glasses,
human,
you're
so
smart.
you
It's
really
just-
can't be surprised when he acts, you know, human. But Fleck is having none of it and wants Lazarus to install some kind of chip that will wipe out Murphy's emotions.
I don't give a shit how smart you are. OCP owns the cops. That means they own him. It means they own your cute little ass.
Now, if you'll
Wow.
excuse
Sexual
me, I have to
harassment.
go beat my wife, club a baby seal, and burn down an orphanage.
Oh, that's evil.
God, I love
Club a
being
baby
evil.
seal. What is it
But
with
Dr.
people clubbing
Lazarus
baby
decides to
seals?
stick it to the man and gets rid of the chip.
Well, there goes $1 million.
Wow, really?
This movie is so watered down, they won't even show violence against electronic components. And you
Watered
think
down.
people today are overly sensitive?
By the way, if you're thinking this Fleck guy is going to be one of the movie's major villains, think again. Around halfway through, he's rather abruptly fired from OCP, and he doesn't take it well.
Thank you, sir. I really...
Well, that was kind of dark.
Yeah. Reminds me of the
And
Resident
yeah, I
Evil
know
sound
that's nothing
effects
new
from
for a
Resident
RoboCop
Evil
movie,
1.
but wasn't the entire point to be more family-friendly this time around? For all ages? Because it seems to me they're trying to have it both ways, and boy is it not working.
So the police are currently trying to hunt down the anti-OCP terrorists, and I guess RoboCop decides now is as good a time as any to visit one of their suspected hideouts, which has an anti-OCP sign hanging on the wall.
You can't see it in that shot, but on the other side of the church, they have a sign that says, "This is definitely not where the rebels are hiding." Probably.
Lewis
boy.
decides to tag along, because reasons.
Hey, Louis, you want your body armor? What? No, I'm off duty.
I would think you'd want to
You're
wear
off
body
duty.
armor 24/7 in this town. Nah, I'm sure she'll be fine.
Yeah,
So they
she'll
go
be
to
fine.
the obvious hideout and
Cough,
find
cough.
that these freedom fighters are mostly just defenseless civilians, unlike the guys from OCP who are armed like the fucking military.
Gee, it's almost as if your corporate overlords are the bad guys. Who would have thought? They seemed like such nice people in the last two movies.
Oh,
Oh, wait.
Firefly. See the
If you want to
wallpaper
get in
at
there, you're going to have to shoot through
poster.
I don't have a huge problem with that.
Well, you asked for it.
Yep.
Really, she did.
Yeah, she
Nancy
did.
Allen only agreed to do this movie if they killed off her character.
Damn.
And I do not blame her. If I saw the
Yeah.
direction this franchise was heading, I'd want to get the fuck out too.
Yeah.
RoboCop is unable
That
to
was a
fire
wise
upon
choice.
his friend's murderer as the fourth prime directive prevents him from doing so.
Even though he wiped all of his prime directives in the last movie.
Young Frankenstein in the background as well.
Maybe he
Look at that.
downloaded a
That's pretty
system
cool.
update between movies and it accidentally reset
Star
his
Wars
factory
poster.
defaults. I don't know.
But he escapes with the freedom fighters who take him to their hideout, and Nico is nice enough to remove his tracking beacon so OCP can't find him.
Because of course she automatically knows where the tracking
Yeah,
beacon is.
as if she knows how $1 million
Yes,
fucking
kid.
machines work.
But he's not exactly in tip-top shape, which is understandable as he just took a fucking grenade to the chest.
Yeah.
Efficiency, 23%.
Really? Because your HUD says 12%.
My math cucumber was also damaged, as well as my vocabulary cheesecake.
But with the help of Dr. Lazarus, who I guess has now joined the Freedom Fighters, they managed to repair him and erase that pesky fourth prime directive. And they...
What was this, Charlie in a chocolate factory?
What
It's
the
crazy.
fuck?
Goes trippy.
Does that normally happen when he reboots?
Dogs. Come on. Oh boy.
Meanwhile, OCP isn't happy that they've lost RoboCop to those pesky rebels, so they call in some help from their Japanese parent company. And they send some kind of ninja android called Otomo, played by Bruce Locke.
He played Shang Tsung on Mortal Kombat Conquest.
Oh, nice. I think.
I'm somewhat ashamed that I did not have to look that up.
He and OCP eventually find the Freedom Fighters' hideout and kill damn near everyone, though Nico manages to escape.
Oh, thank God. I don't think I could bear it if anything happened to her.
And
Yeah.
Otomo takes on RoboCop himself and hits him with a jumping attack. And another one.
Mm-hmm.
And another one.
Yeah, no.
that really all
RoboCop
he
is
knows
a
to
pussy
do?
in this movie, honestly.
Some ninja you
Just
are.
blow shit
Meanwhile,
up.
OCP needs more manpower to relocate people to their concentration camp, rehabilitation facilities, but then they realize, wait a minute, we pretty much own the police department, why don't we just recruit them to do our dirty work? It doesn't go well.
Driving people out of their homes is no work for a cop.
Even we have standards, you know. This isn't Ferguson.
So the police tell OCP to get fucked and walk off.
Wow. They don't exactly say
Didn't
it, but
we
that way,
already
but...
see something like this in the last movie?
I know this is based on what Frank Miller originally wanted to do with RoboCop 2, but I didn't think we'd actually be rehashing RoboCop 2.
So the cops go help the residents of Cadillac Heights defend their homes while OCP decides, hey, if we can't get the cops, let's recruit the criminals.
Damn.
Oh yes, give the violent psychopaths
Yep.
some automatic weapons and explosives.
Yeah.
What could possibly go right?
Meanwhile, RoboCop finally ends one of the lamest fight scenes ever put to film by blowing Otomo's head off, but he can't run off to help his friends as he sustained heavy damage during the fight.
Thank
But
God.
hold on a
Hopefully he'll
minute.
die. Of
Is
course
that a
not.
shiny new toy I see?
Remember that expensive thing they stole from the police armory? Well, this is what it does.
Yep. Optimus Prime time. Fucking
It's a
jetpacking.
bird! It's a plane! It's a crappy blue screen effect! Yep, RoboCop has a jetpack now.
I know, it was absolutely
Why?
silly when
Well,
I
you
saw
gotta
this.
sell those new action figures. There
Yeah.
are kids watching this movie. In theory.
He makes his way to OCP HQ, where it's finally time for the final confrontation with McDaggett. But first he has to deal with two
McDaggett.
more Otomo
I've seen
robots.
McDaggett
Great,
before,
because
another
the
movie or
last fight
something like
with
that.
one of them went
Pretty sure
so
I've seen him
well.
before, another movie.
All they did was flip over him and gently nudge him. Why are these fights so lame?
Yeah, I
They're
know,
robot ninjas. How do you screw that up?
RoboCop
But
is...
Nico and Dr.
such a
Lazarus
pussy
show
of
up
John
just in
Murphy.
the nick of time and hack into the Terminaninjas using Nico's computer. I don't know how they're able to do that. Every other time she's hacked into something, she had to physically plug into it. But here, she's able to do it wirelessly.
Maybe Otomo had Wi-Fi and Ed 209 did not? Or maybe Nico is just the second coming of Jesus. I don't know. Makes as much sense as anything.
So the androids kill each other, which activates their self-destruct. Wait, time the fuck out.
You had those androids fight RoboCop knowing that if he was somehow able to defeat them, you'd all be blown to bits? You have got to be the dumbest movie villain of all time. I can't even make a joke for that. I'm just dumbfounded.
Anyway, RoboCop can fly now, so our heroes easily escape the building while McDumbass is left to die.
Doing us.
Hey, what the hell? There were still 4 seconds on the timer.
What is up with all the number mistakes in this movie? Does the director not know how to count?
1, 2, 5. Lisa, 3.
And so OCP is
45 from
finally
bloody
done
hell.
for good, and
Holy
Cadillac
grail.
Heights is saved from almost certain gentrification. And little Nico is finally reunited with her Well, I'm sure her mom is still...
No happy ending on this
She
one.
got to keep her computer?
Yeah, I guess.
Oh boy.
Well, that's RoboCop 3. Boy, is it a mess, and it bombed big time when it hit theaters, which almost didn't happen due to Orion Pictures
Yeah, I never
declaring
watched
bankruptcy.
it in theaters,
It sat on the
like-
shelf for 2 years before it was finally released.
I watched it on
You'd
like
think
a
2 years would be enough time for them
DVD,
to figure out what a stinker they had on their hands,
collection
and they'd do everything
of RoboCop
possible to
DVD.
ensure it never saw the light of day. Then again, if they had that kind of quality control, they probably wouldn't have gone bankrupt in the first place. The story was half-assed, the humor was lame, the action was watered down, and it doesn't seem to know who its audience is. At times
Yeah.
it's far too childish for the RoboCop fans, but at other times it's a little too dark for the kids. And in the end, it really appeals to no one.
You're paying too
Nope.
much.
Yeah.
Now, before
Pretty
we
much.
go, I'm sure many of you are wondering, why did I decide to review RoboCop 3 instead of the 2014 reboot? And the answer is pretty simple. I didn't think it was that bad.
Yeah, I thought the newer
It wasn't that
RoboCop
good
was
either, but
pretty
I
decent.
didn't hate it.
Wasn't
I
good,
do
it wasn't
appreciate
bad,
the
it was
movie for
okay. It
trying
was-
to do something different with the
Yeah.
character instead of just rehashing the plot from the original. I liked how they made Murphy's relationship with his wife and son part of the story, something RoboCop 2 kinda tried to do but gave up on. And we got some great performances from Michael Keaton, Gary
Keaton,
Oldman,
yeah.
and Samuel L. Jackson.
Samuel Jackson
but
is
the movie had its
did a
fair
good
share
job.
of problems. The moment where Murphy has a nervous breakdown minutes before they're about to show him off to the public was pretty contrived, and that one action sequence that took place entirely in the dark was a waste of time. And I wasn't all that impressed with Joel Kinnaman's performance. He actually seemed more like a robot before they made him into an actual robot. And while I kinda like the new design of the suit, I wish they'd kept it silver instead of black.
And once again, because
Wasn't-
of studio mandate,
Wasn't he in Predator or something like that?
PG-13.
With Arnold Schwarzenegger or something like that.
Will they ever learn?
Feel free to disagree with me if you wish, and I know some of you will. I can hear you typing, but I thought the 2014 RoboCop was perfectly average.
Yeah, I
don't
thought it
know
was
if it's worth
adequate.
going out of
I
your
wouldn't
way to
say it's the
see,
greatest
but if you happen to
or
catch
the
it on
worstest,
cable,
but it's
there are
adequate.
far worse ways to spend 2 hours.
Yeah.
RoboCop 3, on the other hand, was a disaster, and if you happen to catch it on cable, you should change the fucking channel. It is not worth your time at all.
Next time, we're going to look at a movie that I previously reviewed on Cinematic Excrement that somehow got a sequel. Until then, I am the Smeghead, and Hollywood can suck it.
Yeah, Hollywood can suck it. Hollywood sucks. Hollywood's bankrupt with ideas. I mean, it's just all copy and paste now. But yeah, I think that's the end of the video, as you can see here. Let's see. I think that's the end.
RoboCop the Flamethrower! The kids love this one.
Oh boy, it reminds me of Spaceballs, the merchandise scene. That's probably what it was from. Yeah, RoboCop 3, it was a dreadful movie. I wasn't really shocked when I saw Cinematic Excrement sort of review it, because I knew what to expect. It was a dreadful movie. The jetpack was silly. That was just to sell more toys, I guess. RoboCop, the first one, was the best RoboCop I've ever watched out the whole entire movie franchise. The second one was adequate. It was good. You know, it was a bit like the Karate Kid. I'm just comparing the movies, not the stories. You know, the franchise. It was like the first RoboCop was good. The first Karate Kid was good. The second RoboCop was good, and the second Karate Kid movie was good. It was a good attempt. And the third RoboCop movie sucked. The third Karate Kid movie sucked. It's pretty much that's what I'm trying to say. It's always the third movie that is absolutely dreadful in it. But normally the second movie is normally sometimes the best, because Terminator 2 Judgment Day or something like that. I can't remember what it was called. But Terminator 2 did a fantastic job. I actually enjoyed Terminator 2 more than I did enjoy Terminator 1, the original Terminator. Yeah, I mean, I remember watching RoboCop, the TV series, and it was god-awful. Not the cartoon series, by the way. Most people think I'm talking about the RoboCop cartoon series or something like that. No, I'm not talking about the comic book series or anything like that. I'm talking about, it was like a, I don't know, it was like a RoboCop sort of TV series. I can't remember how many episodes there were. Maybe 4 episodes, 8 episodes. I'm not quite sure, but it was god awful. I mean, it was okay, but it wasn't everything I wanted it to be. I'm pretty sure there was like a TV series. Maybe it was like a movie TV series or something like that. But I remember it was god awful. It was like a budget. Yeah, I mean, the new RoboCop movie, I actually found that acceptable. Not a lot of people liked it. I think the reason why is because people compare it to the original. I see quite a lot of that, you know, like Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. They compare it to the oldest to the newest one, like the original Star Trek TV series, and they compare it to like the new one. That's what happens, you know. We always compare the originals to the newest ones, and if it isn't the same, you know, we say, oh, it's horrible, it's terrible. So yeah. When they make a remake, you gotta leave expectations of the original you watched behind. You know, when they make a remake of RoboCop or Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, so to speak, with Johnny Depp and stuff like that, you have to leave expectations behind of what you enjoyed about the original. You know, you have to give the newer version a chance, because it's a brand new start. And you just have to start brand new. But sometimes it's not as good as the original. That's the problem, you see. It's a loophole. Yeah, if you like this video, make sure to give a like, comment down below, and make sure to subscribe to my channel if you enjoy my content. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.